Live from the Built Ford Tough studio at FedEx Forum, it's the Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South, on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app. Now, here's your host, Gary Parrish.
All right, I'm here. My name is Gary Parrish. I'm speaking to you. I'm on the road again. Stamford, Connecticut this time. Bennett Doyle producing the program back in Memphis. Glad he's with me. Glad you're with me. Hope you're getting through the day best you can. And I hope you were listening when everybody was trying to tell you that the Grizzlies were going to end up with a UConn Husky, because they did. It's just not the one a lot of people predicted. We'll talk about it momentarily. And guess who's here? UConn coach Dan Hurley. He's going to join me in a second. First, so quickly, let me set today's schedule for you. 10:15, Jessica Benson's going to join me. She's, of course, the host of Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt. I'll continue the draft conversation with JB. She'll be here in the next segment. When I finish talking to her, take a break, come back, do 5 more things you need to know, at which point we're going to discuss 5 previously undiscussed stories. Among them, Bronny James was selected by the Lakers with the 55th pick as expected. I'll share some thoughts with you on that. We'll do it in about 40 minutes. We did have an NBA trade yesterday after the Kings selected Devin Carter. They traded Davion Mitchell. Give you the details on that in just a bit. Jennifer Lopez was spotted back in California yesterday. TMC said she looked, quote, hints. What a weird life these people are living. We'll spend some minutes on that in the third segment. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they both took losses last night on Amazon Prime. The Fever in the Sky, now a combined 13-22. We'll spend some time on the WNBA a little later on in the show. And President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump, they debated last night in Atlanta. It was something. We'll spend a few minutes on that during a segment we call 5 More Things You Need to Know. Then we'll eventually do GP's carryout, and we'll call it a day. So that's the rundown. We got a lot to get to. But I did want to start with a conversation with a 51-year-old man who has only been a Division I head coach for 14 years, but he's already done enough. He's headed to the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame someday. This week, he had 4 starters from his second straight national championship team get selected in the 2024 NBA draft, and one of them is Cam Spencer, who was picked 53rd by the Grizzlies. I'm obviously talking about UConn coach Dan Hurley. He joins me now. Dan, it's GP. How you doing?
GP, what's up, man?
Everything's good in my world. I appreciate you being here. I know you're busy and you probably are tired of talking on some level, but the Grizzlies did select one of your players yesterday, Cam Spencer, 53rd overall. Just let's start here. What are the Grizzlies getting and the young man who helped you win a second straight national championship earlier this year?
Yeah, GP, we were, thinking it might have ended up being 2. Yeah, I mean, Cam's just he's different. He's built different. Just the mental makeup, the competitiveness, like the commitment to ball. The commitment that he makes to being a great player and to becoming an NBA player that's gonna help the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, the sick part about Cam is that and he'll tell you the truth because when you talk to him, but like part of him is thrilled that he was picked by Memphis and that he's going to have an opportunity with a great organization. But part of him is probably also pissed that he didn't get picked with their first pick in the second round or 9th pick. He's just a different human being.
When did you realize that about him? Obviously, when you're recruiting him out of the transfer portal, the shooting stuff is, you can just look at anything on Synergy, look at the numbers, that's all there. When did you know you were getting somebody that had a mentality you can appreciate?
So I think, GP, when I first talked to him, when he went in the portal, literally that night or the next day, I called him for that kind of, that routine introductory recruit to coach call that generally takes 12 minutes, and I looked down at the phone and I think first time I looked at it, it might've said 42 minutes. And then I think the call might've wrapped up after an hour plus conversation. where just two peas in a pod, man. Like just felt that connection where they share the passion for the game. This, there's just incredible competitiveness and just thirst and obsession with basketball.
I mentioned at the top, a lot of people leading into the draft had projected the Grizzlies to end up with a UConn Husky. It just was Donovan Clingan instead of Cam Spencer. Obviously, Donovan wasn't available at number 9. He goes off the board earlier to Portland. Can you separate fact from fiction? How interested were the Grizzlies in Donovan Clingan from your perspective?
Yeah, they were definitely interested. And when it got to picks, 5 and 6, I think obviously with with Donovan's representation at the table, there was a lot of chatter and a lot of text messages and a lot of, hey, somebody's trying to trade, whether that was, Memphis or Chicago or even Portland to try to trade up to make sure they didn't, lose Donovan. So I think once it got past the first pick, then once it got to 5 and 6, there was a lot of chatter. And then once it obviously got to 7, you knew that Portland wasn't going to trade it.
Um, I mentioned you had 4 players selected over the past couple of days. And I think 3 of them selected much higher than anybody would have ever expected before you got a hold of them and they developed within your program. Obviously, Stephon Castle, he's always been projected to be this kind of guy. Clingan was not the top 20 recruit coming out of high school or anything like that. Tristan Newton wasn't expected to be an NBA player. I don't think Cam Spencer was in mock drafts a year ago. How much does that help you moving forward? Because I know coaches like to sell team success and individual success, and nobody is better positioned right now than you in the entire sport to sell both of those things.
Yeah, no doubt, GP. And I think for us, we've shown an ability to do, really to do great work with players that, are not your McDonald's 5 stars, but they are players on an upward trajectory. They're people that want to be coached. They've got, kind of the old school values in terms of like the work ethic, wanting to be coached, accountability. They got great people around them that'll let us do our job. It helps too when you show that you could do the job with the 5-star guy too, and even, help a 5-star guy really even increase his stock a little bit. But maybe it also speaks to the fact that, the folks that are, that are ranking these players in high school, maybe sometimes they're getting it wrong. Maybe sometimes they're getting influenced a little too much by the sneaker companies or the agents or the grassroots coaches are blowing these guys' phones up to move their player from 24 to 12. So so maybe the rankings are inaccurate. And then, sometimes when you're ranked 6th at 15 years old, you get this false sense of security where you think you've made it, and you're so far from making it. Until you've gotten that second and third contract in the NBA, you really haven't made anything.
So the Grizzlies did not end up with Donovan Clingan, but they did take a center at number 9. It's the guy you're familiar with, Zach Edey. You coached against him in the national championship game. It was either before or during, sometime around the NCAA tournament. I saw a great clip of you talking about him, not just as a college player, but sort of projecting what he could be in the NBA. And you said something along the lines of, this guy is such a unique and special talent that, you should be able to figure out a way to use him in the NBA. From a Grizzlies perspective, now that he's in this franchise, I'm certain that's what they're going to be doing now, every minute of every day. How would you use Zach Edey to maximize his strengths at the NBA level?
Yeah, well, I mean, start off from an offensive standpoint. All the analytics tell you is the 3 things that you're trying to do is get threes, get rim twos, and get to the free throw line. So like 2 of the 3 things, he's like a dominant player with, like his ability offensively to put pressure on the rim, get you the rim twos. You have to foul him around the rim because he's such an incredible finisher. And then he creates he puts so much pressure on the paint that he's also going to create great threes for your team offensively. There's going to be some challenges at the defensive end of the court, for him in terms of, that drop, playing in that drop coverage. He's obviously going to have to, get up higher in ball screen defense and become a little bit more adept at playing in space that way. But, from a tactic standpoint at the offensive end of the court, he's a coach's dream because, he's going to be great in the lob game because he's way more athletic than people think. And he's a dominant paint finisher. I mean, these NBA guys are, they're supposed to be the best coaches in the world. So they should be able to figure out how to use the most kind of dominant inside player in college basketball since like Shaq.
Wrap it up here with UConn coach Dan Hurley. I think most people know you've made some big career choices over the past month. You're back at UConn after at least exploring other big opportunities. You have an opportunity to do something that is very rare in college basketball, and that's win a third straight national championship. I know you've been in the gym with your team. You got Alex Karabin back, a lot of new faces around them. Based on what you've seen so far, do you think you got a legitimate shot to go try to three-peat?
Yeah, it feels like it. I remember last summer and the summer before being pretty insecure about the team. I think, wondering if we were going to be in the play-in game in Dayton or just where you always see your team's vulnerabilities as a coach. You never quite think you're good enough, but this is a talented team. I think we're going to have the two centers again. Samson Johnson is going to take another big step, and then I think Tarris Reed is going to give us that 1-2 punch at center. We've got a plethora of like 6'6" to 6'8", multi-positional guys with Karabin and McNeely and Jaylen Stewart and Jaden Ross and Isaiah Abraham. I mean, it's an impressive group that way. And then, I think the year will come down to guard play. Whether we can be the best team in the country again, it's going to come down to like Diarra and Solo Ball and Aiden, and can these guys give us close to what we've been getting at the guard spots? Because 3 through 5 is probably going to be just as good or better than what we've had at those positions. But it looks pretty good to me.
It looks pretty good to me too. That is Dan Hurley, the two-time national championship winning coach at UConn, the man who helped develop and get Cam Spencer in position to be picked 53rd by the Memphis Grizzlies yesterday afternoon. Dan, I know how busy you've been. I appreciate your time. Congrats on all your success. Send my best to Andrea and the family.
Let's go, GP. You're the man. And love Memphis. They didn't always love me, though. I had some, I had some strange moments there in the AAC.
Well, we look forward to having you back as not an AAC coach. Boy, that sounds even weird to say out loud these days. Not as an AAC coach, but as the former coach of a Memphis Grizzly, Cam Spencer. When you come down, make sure to let me know.
Gotcha, brother.
All right, I'll see you. That's Dan Hurley from UConn. When we come back, Jessica Benson's going to join me. We'll continue the draft conversation. Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South.
Grizzlies fans know it's the team that gives you the edge. Big River Steel does too. And much like the Grizzlies have recruited legendary talent, we want you to be part of our team. Are you ready to be part of something legendary? Then visit www.bigriversteel.com. That's www.bigriversteel.com.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering. To those with a history of raising their performance to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard. Bank easy.
Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
I think we have the college basketball title futures. UConn's #1.
I really like Houston. I'd have them winning it all, but you can't be giving Drake jerseys. What is wrong with you?
Maybe the Drake curse is stronger in college basketball.
How long has he been riding with Kentucky?
He wore an Alabama jersey and Saban retired.
The Odds Couple with Rob Fisher, Lang Whitaker, John Roser, and CJ Hurt live Thursdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Welcome back, Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South. I'm in Stamford, Connecticut. I've been on CBS Sports HQ the past couple of days. Jessica Benson's back in Memphis inside the Bill Ford Tough studio. She joins me on Fridays in the second segment. This is Friday. It's the second segment. Jessica Benson, how are you?
I'm good. I feel like I don't match the energy after two bald-headed legends in the first segment.
Shave your head. You should shave your head.
I could take a Britney Spears lesson plan.
You know, it's been mostly downhill for Britney since that moment, you know?
Leave Britney alone.
No, she had a Vegas residency
She
for a
also
minute.
got freed from her conservatorship, which, whatever you think.
And wrote a national bestseller.
Did write a bestseller. Learn that she made Justin Timberlake cry beating him in basketball once upon a time. And also saying everything's going downhill. The happenings of the last week, I think Britney Spears probably was fine with it. So I don't know what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about is sometimes she doesn't look, okay on Instagram, but you know what?
Hey, listen, Gary, sometimes presidential candidates don't look okay on national TV. You know, we can't all keep it together at all times.
You don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me. I got that set up for 5 more things because we got some stuff to say about that.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know, but like you're here, and it is the thing everybody in the world is talking about today. What'd you make of what we watched last night?
I mean, what we watched yesterday afternoon was the Memphis Grizzlies take Jaylen Wells and Cam Spencer in the second round of the NBA draft. No, what we made of last night, it was my honest viewing experience. I felt sick to my stomach waiting to turn it on because I am a creature of anxiety, and I don't like to prepare to watch something that I feel is going to probably be an abject disaster, and then watching it and quickly having your fears be solidified pretty early. I turned it off about 10 minutes in, and then I had my natural curiosity kick back in, turned it back on, made it another 15 minutes, and then ultimately turned on The Boys to watch and followed along on Twitter. And I felt a little guilty because to some degree, and I don't care whose side you're on, like you cannot watch last night's debate and not at least have a sliver of this is an embarrassment and democracy is dying, and I'm sitting here giggling at memes. But that's what I did because I handled depressing things with humor, and I found a lot of it on the internet last night.
No, I can still, laugh at the funny stuff.
Yeah.
The golf.
What else
back
are we
and
supposed
forth.
to do? We can't do anything else.
Yeah. I am somebody who is capable of laughing at funny things, even in the face of sad things or not so great things. Like funny is funny to me. So like these, jokes that seem out of place. For some people, like, that's not the right time. If it's funny, I'll laugh at it anyway. So I can laugh at the jokes from last night. Again, the golf back and forth, hilarious. But when you get past that, it is really just like genuinely sad because it appears, at least in this moment, our options for president, on one side, you got a guy who, a good portion of America doesn't believe should be running anything, actually believes, he's a convicted felon for crying out loud and regularly referred to as a con man. And the other option is someone who is undeniably not where you need to be probably mentally to run the country. I know you can have people around you, but if you're trying to get elected and ask people to vote for you, you can't perform like that on a big stage. And it's not even like you hear a lot of this. He had a bad night. I don't know that he had a bad night. He just had the type of night you have when you are him and you are 81 years old. I saw some analyst last night put it this way, and I think this is the kindest way to put it. He did the best he can, but that is the best he can do at 81, and that's not good enough to. You could maybe still run the country because for a lot of different reasons under these circumstances, but I don't think you can get the country to elect you under these circumstances.
Yeah, I think it couldn't have gone any worse. And it was an I told you so moment for me. I've had a lot of conversations with friends and family members where I've felt like we were trending in this direction. And I've been terrified for this debate. And it played into every fear that I had. And sure, he can look better at a rally afterwards, but that's what you get when you're in your 80s. And like, I don't want this to turn into hating on elders. I love elders. I just saw one of the best movies of the year starring 94-year-old woman. It's called Thelma. Her name is June Squibb, and she was killing it as a 94-year-old actress. Do I want a 94-year-old running the United States of America? Not necessarily. But in terms of like the debate in itself, because everyone can posturize after this, and I think you have to have your head buried in the sand if you're still coming on here and saying, it wasn't that bad for Joe Biden. Like, no, it was bad. But it was a waste of all of our times. And I live with a poli-sci minor. My husband had a political science minor. So he's really into this kind of stuff. And just the notion of how much does a debate actually affect an election? And that is a genuine question. And that's what it appears that the people around Biden are going to stand on, and we'll see how things continue throughout the week. But how many people were actually watching the debate? How many people are influenced by the debate? Did anything happen last night that changed people's minds? And I would argue that it might have, in terms of less and less people want to come out and vote. Like, I think we will inevitably see the lowest voter turnout that we have ever experienced in this country. But at the end of the day, it's a waste of time for all of us. It's a disaster. You see a coughing, meek Biden, and you see a insane Donald Trump spewing lie after lie and not necessarily being coherent either, but he at least speaks from a sense of authority, and there's still a strength, and this is a game of optics. And from the sheer optics of how someone speaks, that's what comes across last night.
And the optics do matter. They just do. And there is history of this. I mean, go Google, John F. Kennedy, Richard Nixon, like the debates and the way you conduct yourself in debates. Sometimes even more so than what you say, because that's the other thing you hear people, going to last night. Well, if you listen to the arguments, like what was actually said, well, that most of America ain't doing that. Most of America is looking at one man who you can keep saying he's lying every time he opens his mouth, and you can keep calling him a criminal, and you can keep calling him a disgrace, but he does stand there, and he doesn't look his age, and he doesn't sound his age, and he speaks clearly, even if what he's saying is nonsensical.
Well,
and the other guy, even if the other guy is saying sensible things, the way that he is saying them, the words don't matter. He could be saying it. He could be reading Dr. Seuss up there, but just performing the way he performed, it rips away people's optimism or belief that you can actually not only do this job into the future, but at this point, 4.5 more years into the future. It's just it was a bad night, and they got some big decisions to make on that side of the ticket.
One of the techniques that Trump uses and uses so well is called a gish gallop, whereas you just string together lies and non sequiturs more than just things that don't make sense, and you do it with such rapidity that it doesn't allow anybody to step in and fact check, because next thing you know, like 5 different things that none of which are connected to each other have been said in a row, and so where do you even begin? And for someone like a Joe Biden, who I think that could be representative of why he was better at the rally afterwards, and that's how everybody is, in a planned, stable environment where you know what you're going to say, and when you are at a place where your mind might not be as sharp as it once was, and even throw in the fact that it's well known that Joe Biden has a stutter, and the older you get, I would anticipate that it's easy to get lost in thought, and it's hard to make your thoughts known. It's just a bad look for somebody who is currently, the president of the United States, and who is continuing to run. But you nailed it. It's where people just look at the optics and joke off on memes and see what happens there, and don't actually listen to what was said, when in reality, like, forget about Trump. Like, go read about Project 25. It's in black and white on the internet. You can read exactly what the policy in place is for if a second Trump presidency comes to fruition, and that's where I sit in a very scared place. And I know some people probably agree with what's said in Project 25, but for me, that will be the ultimate decider, no matter what, that will still get me off my butt and into a ballot box this November.
Well, that's the thing. I don't mean to get it twisted here, because you hear some people point out over and over again last night, like, okay, I hear you, it wasn't great, but still, we're talking about a decent man who might be diminished against a man who is deplorable. Like, that's the way folks try to frame it. And like, I hear you. You ready for this? Joe Biden can go into a coma. If he's on the ticket in November, that's still who I'm voting for.
Because like the fact that we're in that position is horrible. But
and I want to be clear. It's not because of because sometimes people say things like that. I want to be clear about why I say that, because I would rather have a Biden administration, whatever that looks like, running the country than a Trump administration, because I care about the Supreme Court, because that will matter too. So I know who I'm voting for, given that if these two people are the options. And there are a lot of people like me, but this is my point. I don't think there's enough like me. And that's a real problem. There are people who watched that last night who would vote for a different Democrat nominee, but they can't vote for a man who stood up there and looked and sounded the way President Biden looked and sounded. And if the Democrats don't recognize that, then they deserve to lose. That's where I'm at. You got me no matter what. You got me no matter what. But there ain't enough of me's to get this thing done. And if you don't recognize that, you're making a mistake.
Oh, let's be perfectly clear. The Democratic Party put themselves in this position. Joe Biden put himself in this position. He was supposed to be a one-term president. It was supposed to be a short-term solution for what was seen as a moment of crisis. And now here we are with the scenario of last night, where if he were to win a second term, he'll be 86 years old. And if you've ever known anyone in their 80s, I know there are so many sharp, wonderful people in their 80s. I have said often, I am a child of older parents. And so elder abuse speaks to me, and how we treat elders in this country speaks to me. And I hate how we talk about elders and put them out to pasture. It's one of the reasons I love watching Lee Corso on College Game Day on Saturdays, because I think, we should support our elders and allow them to still have an opportunity, just not for the most important job in the United States of America and one of the most important jobs in the world. And it just turns everything into a laughingstock. And it's sad. That's what it comes down to, Gary. But I'm with you. I care about women. I care about marginalized communities, and I care about the Supreme Court. So that's where I stand with it.
And one last thing on this, then we'll move on to something else. I don't know. I might just blow up 5 more things. But the way my mind works, anytime something doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, like I get real, so like starting with Dan Hurley.
Rattle everything.
It just messes up everything with the way I love. You don't pass on Dan Hurley if he can come join you live at 10. But it just changed. So last thing I'll say on this, because he is 81 years old, and people keep referencing that. And I'm with you. Like the number next to his name is not what bothers me. If this were Hubie Brown on a debate stage, he's older, much older than President Biden, but he wouldn't sound it. He might look it, but he wouldn't sound it. People age differently, and there is a scenario where I could see a 71-year-old person and put them on a stage, and you can just tell they're not, where they need to be. And so it's not just that he is 81 years old. It's that he's this. I don't care if he's 74, 81, 97. He's what we watched on TV last night for 90 straight minutes, and that person is going to have, I think, a very difficult time getting elected. I think these two things are true. That person with the proper administration around him could run the country, but can that person get elected? I don't think so.
Yeah, and it's just the inability to debate. Like when you're watching a debate, and I know the rules were constructed in a way of muting one another's mics, and I actually think it ended up maybe hurting Biden. I think all of the rules that were constructed perhaps did more damage than actual help, or you're just in a position where you're not in your debate prime anymore. We'll put it that way. And you don't have the ability to tap into that. But to not be able to go back and forth on certain things, whether it be the overwhelming support of the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which is just a factual error from it's a lie. We don't have to say anything. It's a lie. There were many lies when it comes to taxes on the American people. Well, yeah, you were taxed more if you made over $400,000. And like, as somebody who is not an oligarch and who is not part of the 1%, like I genuinely understand that the economic plans going forward. But again, I'm somebody who reads a lot of things, takes in a lot of political discourse, and wants to have the best formed opinion that I can. But a lot of people just see 2 old men arguing over their handicap and already feel one way or the other about Trump or Biden. And that's where I go back to, this was a waste of our time. A lot of energy was expelled last night that I don't think ultimately has that big of a sway. But that's a problem if you're Joe Biden, because we know Trump supporters come out in droves. Like, that's just how it is.
Like Trump famously said, and then we'll move on, he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and it wouldn't affect him in any way with his voters. Like, that is true.
It happened on The Boys, Gary. The Boys has gotten too close to our actual life. It's not an escape from reality, and it wasn't very fun to watch last night.
It is not true of Joe Biden. He can't. No matter what he does, I'll never lose a voter. Because what he did last night, and he did the best he can do, but that is the best he can do. And, when you perform like that on such a big stage and the whole country is, because I do think it starts on ABC, CNN, CBS, whatever, but then it trickles into social media, TikTok. My nieces might not have watched the debate last night, but I bet they've seen a ton of stuff on Instagram and TikTok today. Mm-hmm. So that's going to influence them as well. And it's a real problem. We'll see how they address it, but certainly those conversations ratcheted up last night after the debate was over. Let's go from that sad story to a weird story. How closely have you followed this Cal Filipowski thing?
Wow, what a transition. I will say that I distracted myself during draft hell. I'm not draft hell, excuse me, debate hell. Between my brain on draft and my brain on debate, I have very little left to give to the world at this point on Friday. I have not been this excited for a weekend in a minute. I did distract myself during the debate with some of the Kyle Filipowski. And fun fact, this is where you know that it's taken a new angle. I have my non-sports friends. You know me. I weigh everything sporty in the minds of my non-sports friends who just texted me before the show asking if I have ended up on his girlfriend's TikTok yet, which I have not been on her TikTok. I have not gone into the depths of Kyle Filipowski's older girlfriend who has now been cited as perhaps a reason why he fell so far in the NBA draft. Gary, would you like to fill in the holes?
So, well...
Okay. I'm so sorry.
Okay, let me...
Careful. Be careful.
Of the story, would you like to shape the narrative?
It is maybe... This might also be a sad story. I don't know. But so I'll just tell you as it's been presented on social media. So it starts with Cal Filipowski not getting picked in the top 30 on Wednesday night. And then all of us go on podcasts late Wednesday, and they were like, what's the biggest surprise of the first round? And, maybe somebody would say Zach Edey going in the top 10. But other people might say, Kyle Filipowski not getting picked at all. How does that happen? So then Jonathan Givony, who covers the draft for ESPN, he's talking to Zach Lowe on their podcast. And they just started talking about Filipowski and Givony, and I don't know if he knew exactly what he was putting out there, but he was like, listen, this guy's a lottery talent. He's nearly 7 feet. He can shoot it. This is crazy that he ain't been picked. And, some people are saying it's because his girlfriend. And Zach Lowe's like, what? His girlfriend? And he's like, yeah, his girlfriend's a little older. And Zach Lowe's like, well, who cares if his girlfriend's a little older? And then Givony's like, yeah, and he doesn't talk to his parents. And Zach Lowe's like, well, what? And it just it's just like something that happened in the middle of a podcast. Nobody was planning for it. Well, then people start looking into it, and next thing you know, people who are purporting to be Cal Filipowski's mom and brother are both on social media, and the story is that the young woman is either 6 or 8 years older than Cal Filipowski, which may not be a problem under certain circumstances, say, 38 and 30. You could probably get away with that, no problem. But the allegation is that she started dating him when he was in high school. She was an adult. There are grooming allegations against this woman, and it has apparently become so complicated between Filipowski and his family because they don't approve of this that he is actually estranged from his parents. He doesn't talk to them anymore. And I will say, I didn't hear any of this in advance of the draft, but when this started going viral yesterday, and I texted a couple of people. They were like, I heard from 2 different NBA people. It was brought up in pre-draft interviews, and he got very uncomfortable talking about it. Like they would say things like, so tell us about your girlfriend. And he'd say whatever, and it'd be like, so when did you meet her? How long you been together? And it was like, it got very awkward, and that it really does appear it was a problem for him as it pertains to where he got picked. And then, of course, he gets picked in Utah. And, then the jokes, they write themselves.
Come on, it's too on the nose, Gary. Come on. So that we are specific journalists in this standpoint, what the brother said on Twitter, and he was going back and forth with somebody, And he said, look up and read on Mormon grooming and brainwashing, and you'll find some introductory details in there to connect some dots into the story that's going on. Meanwhile, the mom said, you're opening up a 2-year issue. She is 28 with an end game 3 years ago to have a diamond ring on her hand when Kyle left Duke. He was still in high school. It's the prom picture that has really done it for a lot of people of what would assume she was 23 when he was 17 or 18 going to prom. It's a lot. I've been on like tradwife TikTok a lot because I think the algorithm is trying to get all of us to just want to be tradwife. So I'm not uncertain that she hasn't come up on my timeline before, but I usually scroll. But now I'm gonna have to go back and find it all.
I mean, I did all my research yesterday. I was unaware of this woman before yesterday, but I did the proper amount of research you would expect a serious podcaster to do.
Did you go on her TikTok?
I didn't get to TikTok, but I was on Instagram. You know.
Okay.
I seen a lot of pictures.
Okay.
I tell you this, whatever they're up to, they ain't trying to hide it.
They're engaged, right? We keep saying girlfriend. I'm fairly certain they're engaged.
I think they might be engaged.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, it feels like this is none of my business. I don't even know why I brought it up.
You brought it up because it was a story of the draft on why he fell.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just so casually got dropped. And anytime you have a note like, oh, people are a little concerned about his older girlfriend, and then the human curiosity of it all wants to find out everything about the situation. I think human curiosity is a fascinating thing, Gary, and sometimes I think it's wrong. Like, this is a totally different TikTok tangent, but there was a woman who filmed a guy flirting with a woman on a plane, right? So they're all on an airplane, and a woman posts a video of this man who is flirting and like getting touchy-feely with a woman on the plane. And she says, like, attention, if you're married to this man, in her post on TikTok, if you're married to this man, I just want you to know he is going to a hotel with this woman he just met on a plane. So essentially putting out that this man is cheating on his wife with a woman he met on plane. The internet took it upon themselves to find every single detail about this woman, her family, everything. And I think we have to remember sometimes to just mind our own business with normal people. My point of this is there's a difference between somebody who is an NBA draft pick and if this is something that genuinely impacted his draft stock, that's newsworthy. But just normal human beings on a plane, can we just close our eyes and move on?
That's way out of line for me. I don't think you should be videoing strangers, on planes, regardless of what you think. That you don't know anything about this person's life. You don't know what kind of marriage they have. You don't know if this is cool within their marriage. You don't know nothing about these people.
Right.
Why are you putting them out there for the world to discuss like that?
I don't know. But the next piece of that, because I'm with you on that at a baseline, then the next piece of it is like the internet mob. I don't even know what we call it now. Just like people, the mob comes around and they want to find the wife, and they want to find like how many children this family has. What does this wife does? Can we get the wife's response? Like they feel as if they deserve the continuation of this story from this one video that was filmed from a stranger. And I just think that's so weird and so inappropriate. And if you are, I swear to God, like, I love my husband. I don't think he's cheating on me. But if he is, please don't film him doing it and tag me about it online. I think it would be the most mortifying way to find out.
Yeah, it's just awful. Yeah. Sometimes people just mind your own business. It's none of your business, right?
Yeah, I'm sure Kyle Filipowski wanted NBA execs to just mind their own business. Stop asking me.
Well, it is one of those deals where let's say it's 28-20. All right, like if you saw a picture of them at the draft, because I did, there's video of them together at the draft. You don't really blink too much, right? I mean, that looks kind of normal, but like there's a big difference between say 28-20 and let's say 24-16.
Right.
If you're 24-16, you got 28-20, you ain't got no problems.
No.
Nobody even blinks. But before you can be 28-20, you got to be 24-16, and that one will get you. I think even in Mississippi.
And Utah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe.
Come on, people.
I'm just kidding.
It is wild that he ends up in Utah. We can acknowledge that, right?
It just
Hell
is
yeah.
coincidental. Like, it's just a little too big of a coincidence. I'm sure she's thrilled.
I bet she.
I mean, like, truly. I mean, okay.
Hey,
let's just put this out there.
If this really was the master plan,
it could not have worked out any better.
Perfectly.
It could not have worked out any better. Because now you get to be, so many people get drafted by teams and they have to move. And if they have a significant other, they have to convince that person to move with them or family or whatever. And like, she's like, sweet, sign me up. Get me a milk soda. Get me some ice cream. Let's be members of the Utah Jazz.
What a wild situation. What a wild deal. But I think this is probably just it's not without exceptions, but like if your whole family thinks you shouldn't be with somebody, that's probably a good sign when you're young that maybe you shouldn't be.
I completely agree. I mean, there's obviously, I don't know, we get so, I don't want to use the word brainwashed when that's what's being used in this situation, but we see movies of this notion of, oh, they fought through parents who didn't support their love and they loved each other. So even through it all, I can't think of the right. I'm thinking of like the Trisha Yearwood song. Is that for whatever reason, that's what's coming to my head. She's in love with a boy and like the dad hates the boy, but she's in love with the boy and she's going to do it anyway. But I do think there are scenarios where the parent might have a little insight and some life experience behind them where they might know what's best for you in this situation.
My experience of when somebody starts dating somebody and everybody around these people think that it's a bad idea, it almost always turns out to have been a bad idea.
I agree.
I don't remember many relationships surviving that.
Yeah, I always this is what we do on a Friday. But one of my favorite life stories is I was interested in an older gentleman when I was in high school. He was in college and I was in high school at the time, and he was back on a vacation. And my friends helped me. My parents were out of town. I was staying at a friend's house. Yeah, surprise.
That's a wild story. That's a wild one.
And I was staying at a friend's house, so her parents were in charge of me, and we didn't want to tell the parents that I was gonna go meet this boy and like get some ice cream. And we went to Cold Stone Creamery, Gary, please, let's be proper here. But when I got home that night, because the parents were freaking out, the mom came to me and she goes, Jessica, that could have been Ted Bundy. That could have been Ted Bundy, and he could have kidnapped you and killed you, and you would be a victim of a serial killer. And I never stopped thinking that as I went through the rest of my life. And I will just say, everyone should be a little more afraid of the Ted Bundys out there in the world.
I just listened to a podcast on my trip to Texas about this guy. His name was Victor Paleogas, something like that. Okay, so he was in Hollywood, and he would go to this, like the Century City Mall. It was wild. This guy was crazy. He'd go to the Century City Mall and like dressed in a suit, clean shaven, looking like a serious person. He'd find a pretty young woman. He'd say, hey, I am a casting director. I'm working on the next James Bond film, and you look exactly like what we're looking for a Bond girl. If you could, if you're interested, we'd love to get some pictures and whatever. And not every young woman would fall for this. Some of them were like, this is weird and creepy and no way, not meeting you at this home. Like you have a proper office building. But some women would go, and like he would do the same thing. It was same mall, same suit, same I'm casting for a James Bond movie. And like some women escaped him after they met up and he tried to assault them. Other women ended up dead. But it was like he would kill a woman and then go back to the Century City Mall tomorrow and pull the whole plan. Like unsurprising, he got caught pretty quickly. But it was a wild deal. And thank God you weren't living in Hollywood around that time, because you seem naive enough to have went off with this fella.
Apparently, all he had to do was be kind of cute and be on a billboard once for a hospital in Denver and sign me right up. I was like, ooh.
Oh, God.
You can show me the world.
Now think. That's all it took. He got now imagine I'm casting. Now imagine I'm casting for a James Bond film. I'd have you up in the Hollywood Hills inside of 20 minutes.
Don't ask me about my Hollywood Hills.
Oh, now you got a Hollywood Hills story.
No, never go to a second location in the Hollywood Hills. That's my advice to young people everywhere.
This especially this young blonde woman, she ended up thrown off the side of a cliff.
Oh, great. This is why when the conversation was being held about like, if you're alone in the woods, would you rather run into a man or a bear? This is why women picked the bear, okay? This is why we all picked the bear nearly unanimously, and all the men were like, oh, I don't know. I think I could easily fight whoever it is who's there. It's obviously a man. Come on.
I'd rather just have this bear in my life than have to deal with your nonsense as a man. You're right. Right?
I don't know. I'm just saying. When are we getting the female presidential candidates? I think their debates would be better.
Oh, I'll take any of them right now.
Give me anyone.
Anyone,
even one who falls out of a coconut tree, Gary.
I'll vote blindly for a woman right now, and we just
okay. Well, let's whoa. Let's pump the brakes. There have to be qualifications with this woman.
I think the bar's pretty low right now.
Careful what you wish for.
I'd vote for you for president of the United States right now.
Thank you.
I would.
My first action is making the White House the Bass Pro Pyramid. Memphis is the Mecca of America.
You instead of moving to the White House, you could just move to the Bass Pro Pyramid. We could turn our nation's capital into the Bass Pro Pyramid.
Wow. Who says no?
Who says no? Who says no?
It would be me.
Ew. All right, hey, okay. Before we get out of here, the Grizzlies did make 2 more picks yesterday. Just talk some sports. Jaylen Wells was one of them. He's from Washington State, above 40% from 3. Cam Spencer is another one, career, 5 years of basketball, above 40% from 3. It seems that after they got, hopefully, the franchise center in the top 10, they went out and added shooting. That's what it looks like to you, right?
Yeah, what do we value? Dudes who can shoot.
That's what I value.
Come on. Big wings, too. I mean, Jaylen Wells
I value dudes who can shoot and people on billboards in Denver. That's what I value.
I swear, I would be so embarrassed if this person ever found any of this.
Do you ever think it's something? Because sometimes I'll tell stories and I'll leave the names out of it.
My mom gets so mad at me. She's like, Jessica, they know exactly who you're talking about.
Well, that's the thing. Like these stories, and I always leave the names out of it because like these are at this point these are, mothers and people's wives, and I don't know what
struggling
anybody else.
Actors on cruises. I don't know.
They
I'm
could
just
be
saying.
struggling actors. Right. I would feel wildly inappropriate ever putting somebody's name in it, so I always leave the names out. But then I'm like,
connect the dots.
They know who. Like my friends will know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But then I always wonder, like, I wonder if they'll hear what I'm saying, even if I didn't use their name, and they'll be bothered by that. And then I go, well, that's pretty narcissistic of you to think that your ex whatever is sitting around watching the Gary Parrish show on YouTube. So and then I just move on. Then I stop thinking about it.
That's what my therapist told me. When we had that ad from your show of when we were talking about cuddling, and I talked about my ex-boyfriend who had the rotator cuff injury and couldn't cuddle. I was like, what if he saw it? She goes, Jessica, he's happily married with 3 kids. Do you really think he's popping on your dumb YouTube land? I was like, no, you're absolutely correct. This is one of the stupidest things that I've ever had unnecessary anxiety about. Anyway, I love Jaylen Wells, and I love that they did a Pac-12 pick in my honor for one last time. Pac-12 RIP. A nice Bill Walton ode, if you will, to the Conference of Champions forever and always. I love that he also played some point guard in high school, so I think there's some pieces of his game that can continue to develop, especially offensively, which is exciting. But with both of those guys, outside of being great shooters, which is always a necessity, they just feel like good personality fits with this team. I was reading an interview with Jaylen Wells where he called himself an effort guy who will never take a game off. And I know that's just something that a lot of people would say, but he said it with conviction. And then when you watch Cam Spencer play basketball, like, he's a psycho. I said it on my show earlier, the whole meme of like, is somebody going to match my freak? It's Dan Hurley and Cam Spencer, and they are 2 lunatics of basketball, and they were such fun characters to act like tangentially together as UConn went and got that national championship. But I love the thoughts of Cam Spencer and Zach Edey just being on the same team in the NBA. Right. I think it's hysterical, and I root for funny things, and that's incredible.
No, because one guy was the face of one team in the national championship game, and the other guy was at least the swagger of the other team in the national championship game. No, like, I don't know Jaylen Wells like that, and I don't really know Cam Spencer, but I know the people who coached Cam Spencer, and they love him. Part of what will make him an interesting fit here isn't just his ability to consistently knock down shots. Everybody called Reed Sheppard the best shooter in this draft, and I did too. I still believe that. But if you're putting a list together of like top 5 shooters in this draft, Cam Spencer might have been on that one. So you're getting the shooting, sure, but also a guy who's going to be able to fit in, I think, from a personality perspective. Like, if the Grizzlies get off to a nice start and Ja's balling out and we're getting these wonderful post-game interviews with Rob and Kelsey and the whole team's acting up, like, Cam Spencer will look comfortable in that setting. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I just think he's a character. I like interesting basketball players, right? Like, even with the Edey pick at 9, I loved that we could come in the next morning and there was genuine interest in a conversation around the Grizzlies picking Zach Edey at 9, and I think he has untapped character within him too, because I saw what he wore to his draft night party and those sunglasses and the picture that he took that could have been an album cover. And from what everybody says about Zach Edey, we saw like little like blips of it throughout the season. I mean, even him trying to make a point against Rick Barnes, and Memphis, anyone who makes any kind of point against Rick Barnes is going to go over well here. But I think you have 3 rookies that come in who have potential to be loud and have potential to have some voices. And sometimes you get people who are demure. And I think that's an exciting thing from a media standpoint. We're like, yes, please, more of these kind of people who are genuinely interesting human beings. And Jaylen Wells was one of the best stories in the draft too, just from the semblance of going D2, going to Washington State for 1 year, betting on yourself, and ultimately getting picked 37th.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Cal Boone at CBS Sports graded all 30 teams' drafts, and the Grizzlies are one of the few teams that got an A. He loves the Zach Edey pick, likes them adding shooting in the second round. You can find Cal Boone's draft grades. Grizzlies got an A at CBSSports.com. Jessica Benson, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday morning.
See you Monday, Gary.
Bye-bye. That's Jessica Benson from the Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt. Weekdays, 8 a.m., Grind City Media. When we come back, I guess we'll do 5 more things you need to know. We already touched on the presidential debate. I had that in the list. That sort of violates my own 5 more things you need to know rules about discussing 5 previously undiscussed stories. But whatever. We've already put it together. We'll start with Bronny James getting selected 55th by the Lakers yesterday. We'll do that next. Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South. Hey, Bennett, can you hear me?
Shall we talk about our favorite NBA Finals MVPs? Number 3 is a little bit of Canadian history because it's the first and only NBA championship that the country as a whole has. I'm going to go with Kawhi Leonard's second Finals MVP. I still get my little heart warm even thinking about it, and I was there watching every game. IMHO with Lang Whitaker and me, Kelsey Wright Johnson, on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app. We have another edition. This will be the 3rd edition of the Debate Club. You guys are going to sell a shoe to Mr. Bennett Doyle, our producer over here.
Oh, yeah.
I saw these.
I've seen these. I saw these on social media, too. It's the perfect house shoe. I know, right? Like, yeah, it's not even a house shoe. I bet you they're really comfortable. You know, you heard of unisex. This is unifoot. Oh, my God.
The Sneak Fest Show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
What is going on? What is it? Which one? What color was it?
With speckles.
Yeah, that's vomit. That's vomit. Yeah, that is the worst one. The vomit is the worst one. I'd like to remind everybody that this is her idea. She wanted to do this.
Tune in to the Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt live every weekday at 8 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Looking for a full court dining experience? Dribble over to Southland Casino Hotel, your ultimate gaming oasis in West Memphis. As a proud sponsor of the Memphis Grizzlies, we're inviting you to savor the flavors at our 8 incredible dining venues. Ignite Steakhouse is where culinary excellence gets grilled. Indulge in charcoal grilled steaks and farm-to-table favorites perfectly paired with wine or handcrafted cocktails. Enjoy an all-access buffet experience at the kitchens or revel in comfort food and southern classics at the Fry House. If casual is more your thing, sample the innovative fare at Seasons Cafe, while Chairman's Bar and Charred Oak Bourbon Bar serve up cocktails and live concerts every week. For those on the go, The Grind is your one-stop coffee shop with gourmet brews and grab-and-go goodies. And of course, we can't forget the Sports Bar and Grill, where you can catch all the Grizzlies action with the best pub fare in town. At Southland Casino Hotel, we've got the perfect dining experience for you, so come on down and ignite your taste buds today.
Must be 21 plus. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
LifeCare Ambulance is proud to be an official partner of the Memphis Grizzlies and FedEx Forum. At LifeCare, they wear their hearts with pride. Their passion is their people. They want you to love what you do and where you do it. Their employee-driven culture encourages a healthy work-life balance and supportive work environment. They invest in your success and well-being so that you can provide the best care for the patients that they serve. Join the incredible team of EMTs and paramedics in Memphis, Nashville, and across the nation today. Learn more at lifecareamb.com.
Orthopedic injuries can be unpredictable, unforeseen, and unscheduled, and Ortho South understands this better than anyone. Since your injuries don't make appointments, you don't need to either. That's because Ortho South welcomes walk-ins during the weekdays and the evenings, and even on Saturdays. So next time an unforeseen injury makes an unscheduled appearance in your life, visit orthosouth.org to find your nearest urgent care location. Just walk in and Ortho South will take care of everything, especially you. Learn more at orthosouth.org. That's OrthoSouth at orthosouth.org. Now I got 5 more things you need to know.
Number 1.
As expected, the Los Angeles Lakers did use the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA draft on Bronny James, the oldest son of the NBA's all-time scoring leader, Lakers franchise player, LeBron James. Big Bet Bennett, I know you weren't surprised because that's where everybody had this thing going. Are you offended? Are you bothered by the Lakers using a draft pick on Bronny James? Because part of the internet seems to be.
No, I mean at 55, come on. I don't think that's. People take swings all the time around those picks. You know, I think it's totally reasonable.
If you go look at the history of the 55th pick in the draft, it is just one person who never amounted to anything after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, with very few exceptions. So they could have taken Bronny James with the 55th pick or literally anybody else available. And odds are that person is not going to become a meaningful NBA player at all. And odds are that person won't even become a NBA player, period. All right? So the idea that they passed on Victor Wembanyama or anything close to a sure thing is just nonsense based on the history of the draft. And remember, this draft is perceived to be weaker than most. So when people get caught up on, they used a draft pick on somebody who probably doesn't deserve to be drafted on their own merits, the truth is whoever they used the draft pick on would have probably never played a meaningful role with the Lakers anyway. So given that that's your reality, this is a small price to pay to keep your franchise player happy or free of resentment. LeBron James can leave you right now if he wants to. You know, that's another factor in all this. He can just walk away. And they don't want him to do that. They want him to sign a max contract extension. And all indications are that he wants to stay in Los Angeles. But if you pass on his son at 55, even if you have the best reasons for doing it, that is going to possibly create issues between you and your highest profile, most important employee. I don't care what kind of business you're running. You never want to have issues with your highest profile / most important employee. At ESPN, that might be Stephen A. Smith, or on a different day, Pat McAfee. But I promise you, the boss's primary goal with those people is to, you know, keep them as satisfied and happy and free of resentment and anything else as much as possible, because all businesses run better when the most important people aren't upset about something. And if you pass on Bronny James, you might upset LeBron James. So why do that? And you can say everything I just said, be okay with what happened, and also acknowledge what it is. You know, I watched my friends last night talk in various places about this, and they get really uncomfortable trying to talk about Bronny as a draft pick. They start, you know, emphasizing his wingspan and his maturity. And, man, he seems like such a great young man. And that's all wonderful. But, you know, I could say that about my son, too, you know, on some level. You know, I think my son's an impressive young man. And, you know, I think my son, you know, is, you know, respectful of other people. You know, that doesn't make him worthy of being a basketball player. It's okay to talk about Bronny James honestly. And this is the most honest thing you can say about him. The only reason he was picked yesterday is because of who his father is. It's not because he's got an interesting wingspan. It's not because he shot it well at the combine. It's not because, man, there's really some untapped potential there. I'm not putting a ceiling on him because, I mean, guys that go undrafted all the time turning to meaningful NBA players. So, you know, we'll see what happens going forward. That'll be up to him. But the only reason he was picked yesterday is because his father is LeBron James. That's it. And you know what? That's okay. It's okay. Because this kind of stuff happens in sports all the time. Again, the Lakers' options were take Bronny James and keep LeBron happy, make a dream come true for a family, or pass on Bronny James to take somebody who never amounts to anything for you anyway. Why would you do that? It would actually be dumb for the Lakers to pass on Bronny James under these very specific circumstances. And again, this kind of stuff happens all the time in basketball. Bill Self's son works in basketball. I'm confident Bill Self helped him get into it. John Calipari's son works in basketball. I'm confident John Calipari helped him get into it. Billy Donovan's son, you ready for this? Coaches the G League team of the Chicago Bulls. How do you think that happened? Billy Donovan obviously coaches the Chicago Bulls. Giannis Antetokounmpo's brother has been on the roster in Milwaukee for 5 years. Jalen Brunson's father is on staff in New York. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
This happens in our business too.
Oh, dude, at the end of the day, we would all do it, right? Like as a father of a son, go ahead.
I stopped short of that because at the end of the day, you might love your son just as much as LeBron loves his son and have dreams of playing with your son just as much as LeBron has dreams of playing with his son. But you might also just reach the conclusion, which I think is totally reasonable, that this is not good. That forcing your teenage son's way into the NBA, into your franchise, is obviously going to create some real, problems for him going forward. And this might not go as smoothly as we all hope. I actually can understand why somebody else in a position to do something like this might not want to do something like this. I've told this story before, and I hope nobody involved minds, but I work with a young man at CBS Sports named Anthony Billis. His father is Jay Billis. Now, Anthony is just working in research, and he's a sharp, really focused, impressive young man. So he's going to go a long way in this business. But I always notice that they didn't try to force him straight in. Jay Billis is pretty powerful at ESPN. I'm confident if he told somebody over there, I want my son over here and I need this job, and, you could probably make something like that happen. Anthony Billis works with us. I don't think Jay wanted him to be just dropped into ESPN. And I'm not sure Anthony wanted to just be dropped into ESPN as Jay Billis' son. So he's coming up if you didn't know he was Jay Billis' son, you'd never find out because he's not going to bring it up. And it's just not a thing. He's just there working like anybody else. And I can understand how a different father might think that's the better way to do this. So I don't know that any of us would do this, but to your point, it is rooted in good stuff. It's rooted in love. It's rooted in strong family stuff. It might not go well, but don't get it twisted. That's the only reason this happened, is because that family really wanted this to happen. And I think it's, rather than roll your eyes at that, just take it for what it is. Because if you can, and I mentioned this on CBS Sports HQ yesterday after the selection was made, if you can rid yourself of all the nonsense we've been using to fill up podcast and television shows for the past few weeks about Bronny James, trying to discuss him as a legitimate prospect, wondering if anybody else would take him, debating whether he's a first-round talent, if you could just take all that, and we just doing that to fill up time. Take it, set it over here. At the end of the day, what we're talking about here is a 39-year-old man who was raised, for the most part, in poverty and without a father. And he has gone on, this man, to be arguably the greatest basketball player of all time. He's become a billionaire. And it's been clear for a while that he's not only a father, but he's a very involved father. I don't like talking about people I don't know in any sort of personal way because I don't know them personally. I don't know what LeBron James is like behind closed doors. But what that family has shown us over the years is that he's a very involved and loving father. I mean, I've been in small basketball gyms with him just watching his kids play basketball. There's the NBA's all-time leading scorer just standing 7 feet over there, looking anxious watching his kids play, like any of us sometimes get anxious watching our kids play. And whether you think it's a good idea or I think it's a good idea, he has stated for years, he's told us that this is a dream of his, to play in the NBA with his son. And the whole being raised without a father thing, I think, does matter here, because that's going to have an impact on a person one way or another. And it's often not in a positive way. But in a weird way, it does appear that it has motivated LeBron James in a positive way, because he has quite clearly spent time trying to be the father that he never had. And he has stated that it is a goal of his to make this happen. And at some point in next season, perhaps on opening night, there will be a moment where, for the first time in the history of the NBA, a father and a son not only play together, but embrace on the court. And they have that moment. And Savannah's going to be, on the front row, presumably. And I bet you'll see a tear in her eye. And I know people are making fun of it and rolling their eyes at it, but I don't know. As somebody who is also a father of 3, I find that whole thing sweet more than I find it troubling. At the end of the day, if you want to call it nepotism, call it nepotism. But there's nepotism all over the NBA already. This isn't new. It's not unusual. LeBron and Bronny aren't the first people to manipulate a situation like this. They won't be the last. It happens in other sports leagues. It happens in pretty much every business you can think of. So I'll just take it as a sweet moment, let everybody else argue about the other stuff. And I look forward to seeing how it goes. Not here to predict how it'll go. If I had to bet, I would bet Bronny James has a very difficult time becoming a meaningful NBA player. Undeniably, he has a long way to go. But I'll be open-minded about it. And either way, when we do get that moment where LeBron and Bronny are on an NBA court together, making history, I'll be able to appreciate that just for nothing more than what it is.
Number 2.
We had an NBA trade yesterday. It was interesting after the Sacramento Kings took Devin Carter with the 13th pick on Wednesday night. We were in studio here in Stamford, Connecticut, and Adam Finkelstein said, and this probably means Davion Mitchell is on the trading block. Less than 24 hours later, Davion Mitchell was traded to Toronto. And it is wild how this is just what happens in these drafts. And it's a reminder of something I've been saying for years now. We spend all this time discussing and debating NBA prospects in advance of a draft. Then the draft happens, they get selected, they go somewhere, and then most of them just disappear. They don't matter. Even the ones you think are going to matter, oh, he's a top 10 pick. They just don't matter. Here's Davion Mitchell. Had an incredible NCAA tournament. Locked up Gonzaga. Ends up being the 9th pick in the 2021 NBA draft. And goes to Sacramento, starts 19 games as a rookie. You think, okay, maybe this is going to work. Since then, in the subsequent 2 years, started 13 games. His reputation coming out of college, undersized guard who is at this point a non-shooter, but he's a great point of attack defensive perimeter player, and he's going to really be able to lock people up. And some of that is still there, but the shooting has never come around in any sort of meaningful way. His minutes have gone down each of the subsequent 2 years after his rookie year. Played 27 minutes as a rookie, only averaged 18 as a second-year player, only 15 as a third-year player. It just didn't work. And you go back and look at that 2021 NBA draft, and it's looking like it's going to go down in history as a draft that didn't really bring us too many meaningful players into the NBA. That's the draft where Cade Cunningham went number 1. That's not going perfectly, right? After that, Jaylen Green, not going perfectly. Evan Mobley, that's you'll live with that at number 3. Scotty Barnes was the rookie of the year. He's been an all-star, but also in the top 10, you had Josh Giddey go 6th. Wouldn't do that again, probably. Davion Mitchell went 9th, just got traded. Zaire Williams went 10th. You know that story. James Bouknight went 11th. I think he's out of the NBA. I know he's out of Charlotte. So that draft, man, there's a lot of misses in the lottery. And Davion Mitchell, he looks like he's one of them. After 3 years in the NBA of nothing production, for the most part, he's on his way to Toronto.
Number 3.
Jennifer Lopez was spotted with Ben Affleck yesterday at their LA office, but TMZ reports she looked tense. I don't know if you saw the pictures, Bennett, but have you noticed J-Lo looks tense lately?
I haven't seen a lot.
She's been looking a little
has
tense.
she?
I could just tell you, I've been looking at her a little bit, and she's been looking a little tense. What a weird life these people are living right now. Wouldn't it be weird to have so many people interested in your marriage on the rocks that everything you do is interpreted by strangers? Like, it's like Ben Affleck goes to get a cup of coffee and he doesn't have his wedding ring on. And that's a big thing. Like, that's a headline at TMZ. But like, I went to get a cup of coffee this morning, and I also didn't have my wedding ring on. I just had it sitting on my desk. What if there'd have been paparazzi outside taking pictures of me, and the next thing you know, it's on TMZ, Gary Parrish spotted getting coffee with no wedding ring on? What does it mean? It just means I woke up and went downstairs to grab a cup of coffee real quick and didn't really think about it. I also didn't have shoes on. What did that mean? It just means I just went to get a cup of coffee with no shoes on, nothing more. But everything with these people is now interpreted by strangers. And it must be, I empathize with these people, because you got to think when they, both come out of relationships and they end up reconnecting somehow after all of these years, they, on some level, are probably like, man, I really do like being around you. I remember we had something special, but God, if we take this thing public, you know how people are going to make fun of us, and it's just going to become a circus, and it's just going to be a lot to deal with. You know what? Who cares? Let's do it. We love each other. Let's get married. And then so quickly you are reportedly on the rocks, and the whole world's watching everything you do and describing you as tense when you just go to an office building in LA. I don't think this would be a fun way to live, Bennett.
No, I don't think so either. But I mean, they've been in the spotlight for a long time, man.
But I wonder what it would be like to hear this, right? Because I don't know what I have no idea what's going on in their marriage, other than it doesn't look great because they bought a $60 million house together and now they're selling it.
I mean, he always looks unhappy.
He does always look unhappy.
Yeah, that's just him off camera, or when photos are taken out, he's always looking unhappy. So
I don't know what's going on with them, but it doesn't look good from a distance. But there are reports, like you'll go to page 6 and it'll be like, sources close to Ben Affleck tell page 6 that he is now convinced that the marriage cannot continue, and that all of this was a colossal mistake. Now, what if they're trying to work this out behind the scenes? What if they're trying to say, hey, maybe this isn't perfect, but we can work through it? And then it's like, all right, we had a good day, but now I just jumped on page 6 and your friends are allegedly telling a publication that you're done with this, and you realize it was a colossal mistake. I just don't know how you work through that. It must be complicated.
Yeah, it's tough.
It'd probably be tough. Like, for most people, if your husband's friends or wife's friends think, because they've been told that your husband or wife doesn't believe the marriage can go forward anymore, like, that ain't something you got to read about on the internet. That's just something like his friends know or her friends know, and they all talk about, in a group text. But you ain't got to go on page 6 and read about it. You ain't got to hear that. You might not even be aware of it.
Right.
I feel bad for Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. I don't know where they're going, but I know it seems like it's hard.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I wish them the best.
I do too, Bennett. That's what I do. I wish them the best. Them and everybody else. Except for Drake.
Number 4.
Not Drake. I don't wish him the best. But everybody else, I wish him the best. He's a master manipulator and a habitual liar too. I don't wish him the best, but everybody else, I wish the best, including Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. Hey, we got a WNBA doubleheader last night on Amazon Prime involving both of our star rookies, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. That's the good news. Bad news is they both lost again. Shucks.
Yeah, I thought I had the fever, but.
Well, the Storm jumped on the fever pretty early, Bennett. I'm not going to act like I was
broken.
I'm not going to act like I was watching every minute of it, because I was watching two old men talk to each other on television, right? Mm-hmm. But I was aware, and when I looked at it the first time, it was like, uh-oh, Bennett, I heard you take the fever plus 9.5, but this isn't going so well. They seem to be getting their brains beat in. They're down 19.
Yeah.
You made a run at it, though.
I'm never. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
You made a run at it. You made a run. Hey, Caitlin Clark, she was 4-9 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3, 15 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, 6 turnovers. She turns it over a little bit,
Yeah.
I'm going to blame her teammates, though.
Yeah, they suck.
They suck. I'm blaming the teammates. I'm not blaming Caitlin Clark. I'm blaming the teammates. I think they stink. So now the Fever and the Sky, they both add another loss to the loss column. The Fever are 17 and 12 now. 7 and 12 now. The Chicago Sky are now 6 and 10. So both significantly under 500, but they're trying hard, and I'm sure they'll get better with time.
Number 5.
We already talked about it with Jessica just because it was the thing everybody was talking about, but I didn't get Bennett's thoughts on it. Bennett, did you watch
you want my thoughts?
Did you watch the debate last night? And if so, how concerning or unconcerning was it for you? What both gentlemen said about January 6th?
Well, I was clearly paying attention to that part specifically,
Right.
I think I don't know if I heard what I wanted to hear, but that's okay. That was a minor part of the discussion yesterday.
That was like a sidebar story to the main story. The main story, let's be serious for a second.
Okay.
The main story, of course, being that the 81-year-old president of the United States did not perform in a way that inspired confidence, even among his supporters. For instance, if you saw Van Jones last night on CNN, he was like, I love Joe Biden. I love that man. I worked for that man. And it breaks my heart to see this, and somebody needs to step in. And when Van Jones is already going there, then a lot of people are going there. And people can say he had a cold or he had a bad night. It doesn't matter, even if those things are true.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he really is great behind closed doors, we are now living in a world where the narrative becomes the reality, probably because it is his reality. But even if it's not, it doesn't matter anymore. We've seen this man fall. We've seen this man stumble with his words. And then we all watched him on live television last night with a camera right on him for 90 minutes. And he looked old. He looked incapable in many ways. And the nicest thing you can say is that he did the best he could do. But that is the best he can do. That is who he is. And not to repeat myself too much, but I stop short of the people who say that man can't run the country. Because that man is running the country, or at least his administration's running the country. He can run the country, or at least his administration can run the country. What I am less sure of is that he can get elected. I think you're asking, it's a big ask to ask American voters, many of whom are already fed up anyway, to elect somebody who performed like that on that stage last night.
Yeah, and I thought, I don't know if you guys hit on this when y'all were talking about it. The golf thing was, I just felt like I was living in the Twilight Zone when that part happened.
But that's a real thing.
With them arguing about their golf games.
So for 80 minutes, they are sitting there more or less calling each other the worst president in history, back and forth. You're the worst president in history. And then it'd be like, President Biden, it's your turn to talk. And he'd be like, that's malarkey, and you're the worst president in history. And then they go, former President Trump, it's your time to talk. And he'd be like, you've ruined this country. And it's just back and forth. And nobody even really blinked or seemed to care. It was like, that doesn't even hurt me, right?
Right.
But then somebody questioned your handicap. And it was like, okay, buddy. It was okay when you were calling me the worst president in history. But you're going to say I'm not a 6? You're going to say I didn't get my handicap to 6 when I was the vice president? Now we might have to take the gloves off. It was two old white men arguing about their handicaps, which is happening all over the country in country clubs right now over sausage and biscuits.
And at first I thought that they were trying to maybe bring like a moment of levity to like the serious conversation, but clearly like 30 seconds into that conversation, I was like, oh no, they're dead serious. They're pissed about them calling out each other's golf game.
And you ready for this?
Is wild.
And you ready for this? Just like the overwhelming majority of other golfers in the world, neither one of them's telling the truth. Neither one of them are as good as they say they are. You give me an actual 8 handicap right now, and I'll put him 18 holes against President Biden, like for everything in my 401k tomorrow. And the funniest part is Trump, saying,
what did he say he won?
2 club championships. I'm confident he cheated in those.
Bro.
I mean, he cheats at everything else. I don't know why he wouldn't cheat at that. You
like,
know,
if I was in that club, dude, I'm gonna let you win, man. I'm afraid of what you could do to me.
Well, the thing you have to understand is that the golf course isn't the place where cheaters go to get honest. The golf course is the place where sometimes honest people will get dishonest and cheat. People cheat at golf all the time. Oh, I found my ball.
Yeah, right.
Come on, man. No, you didn't find your ball. Oh, I got a good lie. No, you don't have a good lie. You set that. Honest people find themselves lying on the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Liars don't get honest on the golf course. So I can't imagine President Trump is honest on the golf course because he's not honest anywhere. And there's no scenario where Joe Biden's actually a 6 or an 8 handicap. The funniest part is Joe Biden's like, I was a 6 when I was VP, and then now I'm an 8. And Trump's like, I've seen your swing. Not an 8, no chance. Seen your swing. Seen your swing, no chance. That's a real thing golfers say every day. They'll look at that swing and they'll be like, there's no way that guy's a 6 handicap or an 8 handicap. Just like I'm capable of laughing at the funny stuff. You know, you put a tragedy and a joke right next to each other. I can consume both of those things at the same time. I can go, oh my God, this is really sad. Ha ha ha, that was really funny. I can hold both of those at the same time. So I can laugh at the jokes last night and the memes and whatever, but mostly just sad. We should, as we call ourselves the strongest and best country in the world, we should be able to have 2 candidates better equipped to run this country than the ones we put onto that stage last night. And I'll say this and then we'll move on. You finally did hear some serious left-leaning people, like powerful people, start to seriously suggest last night that there needs to be a change in the ticket, that President Biden needs to bow out of this race, continue running the country, but do not seek re-election. So we may end up headed there or not. I don't know. But there are also leaders in the Democratic Party who are tweeting and saying on television, hey, this is still just a clear choice for people. Okay, maybe he didn't look so great last night, and maybe he gets lost in his words sometimes. And yeah, sometimes he looks like he doesn't know where he is. But this is still a choice between a good man and a bad man. It's still a choice between a competent man and an incompetent man, whatever, right? This is the way some leaders on the left are still trying to frame Trump versus Biden as like, hey, listen, even if President Biden doesn't speak so well and he does look old and sometimes he looks like he doesn't know where he is, you still got to vote for him because you can't vote for the other guy. That's the end of democracy as we know it. I'm just telling you, even if you're right, you will not win that election. You can keep saying that and you will wake up the day after the election and you'll go, well, I guess maybe we shouldn't have run the 81-year-old who performed terribly on a very big stage because people lost people already don't have confidence in him, and that just reinforced it last night. This is all I'm saying. If they don't change the ticket, they will not win the election, and it will be their fault. You'll have all sorts of people who vote the exact same way I vote, who wake up the day after the election and go, I can't believe this country elected this evil man again. And you know what I'll say? You did this to yourself. I genuinely believe if you ran a younger, more presentable nominee, you could handle Donald Trump no problem, or handle him, I think, comfortably, because there are tens of millions of Americans who simply will not vote for him no matter what. But there are people in the middle, and those people, when you combine the border and all the other stuff that is just thrown in their faces and that performance last night, you're going to lose people. You won't lose me. I'll be there for you. But there ain't enough of me's to get this thing done. If they don't make a change and they lose the election, it'll be their own fault. Be back with GP's Carry On.
Mike did his favorite black films of all time. Mike, where we at?
If there's one movie I know every single line to, it is Coming to America.
There we go.
It is Coming to America. It can come on any time of any day, and I'm going to stop and watch at least 20 minutes of it.
Get all of your HBCU sports and culture news by tuning in to HBCU Huddle with CJ Hurt and Mike Wallace. New episodes drop every Thursday on grindcitymedia.com, YouTube, and Spotify.
I think we have the college basketball title futures. UConn's #1.
I really like Houston. I'd have them winning it all, but you can't be giving Drake jerseys. What is wrong with you?
Maybe the Drake curse is stronger in college basketball.
long has he been riding with Kentucky?
He wore an Alabama jersey and Saban retired.
The Odds Couple with Rob Fisher, Lang Whitaker, John Roser, and CJ Hurt live Thursdays at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
When it's all on the line, you turn to the strong, the stable, the unwavering. To those with a history of raising their performance, to meet the moment. It's true in basketball. It's true in banking. Grizzlies Checking from Pinnacle. Play hard, bank easy.
Open a Grizzlies checking account with at least $100 and a recurring direct deposit by August 31st, and you could receive a $200 direct deposit bonus into your account. Details at grizzliesbanking.com. Member FDIC.
Let's face it, there's a lot of trash talk in basketball, but the great teams let their performance do the talking. Like Ford F-150 with Pro Power on board, a class-exclusive industry-first feature that turns your truck into a mobile generator and leaves the competition speechless. Ford F-150, official truck of the Grizzlies. Greatness starts here at your Mid-South Ford dealer. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds, GVWR.
Welcome back, Gary Parrish Show, presented by Ortho South. I'm in Stamford, Connecticut, after spending each of the past 2 nights in studio CBS Sports HQ. Been at Doyle back inside the Built Ford Tough Studio. Let's wrap this whole thing up with GP's Carryout.
It's time for GP's Carryout. One final segment filled with stuff to take with you. It's not everything you need to know, but it's most of it. What did we learn today?
A whole bunch of stuff, but we mostly focused on the 2024 NBA draft. It concluded last night. The big story from day 2, Bronny James being selected 55th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers. But our big stories were the Grizzlies added 2 accomplished shooters with second-round picks, Jaylen Wells from Washington State and Cam Spencer from UConn. We had UConn coach Dan Hurley opening the show with us earlier today, and the Grizzlies are getting a 6'3" guard who can really shoot it, but they're also getting somebody who comes with all of the intangibles that people love. Dan Hurley, I guess, was on a podcast with JJ Redick before both of those men emerged as candidates to coach the Los Angeles Lakers, and he was asked at some point, what do they look for in the recruiting process? And to quote Dan Hurley, he said, the winning shit. We're not looking for 5-star this and, the projected top 5 pick. That's great. We'll take them. But the other stuff's got to be there too. It can't just be about he's ranked really high. He's on a big board in the top 10. He's a super athlete. You got to have, again, to quote Dan Hurley, the winning shit. Well, Cam Spencer had that, and they recognized it pretty early after he arrived at UConn. The shooting, you can see that on Synergy. You can see that on YouTube. You can look at the statistics. This guy is an elite shooter of the basketball, but he's a real basketball player. He can bounce it and get to the rim. He's tough. He'll talk. He's confident without being arrogant, and really was in some ways the heart and soul of that UConn team that won a second national championship, sort of the Dan Hurley on the floor. Like their mindsets, mentality, approaches are very similar. They're both, fascinating guys. And so when you draft somebody like Cam Spencer, you're not just drafting a 6'3" player who can really shoot it. You're drafting somebody who brings a lot of other intangibles to the franchise. I mentioned earlier Kyle Boone at CBS Sports had the Grizzlies giving him an A when he handed out draft grades. They're one of the few franchises that got an A for what they did in the draft, taking Zach Edey at number 9, Jaylen Wells at number 39, Cam Spencer at number 53. Let me just read you what Kyle Boone wrote. It's very brief. He wrote, "Call me crazy, but I love what Memphis did in the draft. I respect the front office that has convictions, and they clearly valued Edey enough to stay put at number 9 and take their guy. He's going to be a punishing screen setter and finisher for Ja Morant in Memphis. That's going to be fun. The addition of shooters like Wells and Spencer in round 2 only further boost their grade. It was a good week for the Grizzlies." That's Kyle Boone's thought, CBSSports.com. You can find his NBA draft team grades. They're on the homepage right now.
What's today's biggest game?
You kidding me? It's happening in Flushing, Queens, down at Citi Field.
Wow.
It's the Astros and the scorching hot New York Mets, who are now 39-39, 500 for the first time this season after sweeping the evil New York Yankees at Citi Field earlier this week. Astros are in town. They're only 40-40, so it's a battle of two 500 professional baseball franchises. It's on Apple TV Plus. First pitch is at 6:10. It's Houston minus 110. It's the Mets minus 110. It's a pick'em game. Big Bet Bennett. Ronel Blanco is on the mound for the Astros. Jose Quintana is taking the bump for the Metropolitans. How you going to act?
I mean, dude, they've won 7 in a row, including a sweep of the Orioles. So
but they're going up against the scorching hot New York Mets.
This is true. This is tough. Who's on the mound for y'all?
These are two teams playing their best baseball of the year right now, Bennett.
All right, so who's on the mound for y'all?
Jose Quintana.
Oh, GP, he's not very good.
He pitched for the White Sox, pitched for the Cubs. Now he's a Met.
I think I might have to go Astros. Blanco's been playing great.
You know who else has been playing great? The scorching hot New York Mets. They don't call you the scorching hot New York Mets if you're not playing great. They never said that about a team that's not scorching hot. These dudes are scorching hot. They just swept the Yankees.
You should be glad that I'm picking the Astros.
I know, because your record is 126, 131, and 4. You're negative 19.3 units. This is probably the best thing that's going to happen to me all day today, you picking the Astros.
Yeah.
But it's disrespectful to do it right to my face.
I know, man, but I mean, they've won 7 in a row. And that's the thing.
It is the scorching hot New York Mets. I don't know how many times you need me to say that.
I understand that, but when I see it with my own eyes, like I had to watch them dismantle my team last week. That's one of the best teams in baseball, and so it's just it's what you see with your own eyes.
I know, but like I got eyes too, and you know what I've been seeing?
What have you been seeing?
Hot New York Mets.
Y'all did kick the Yankees' ass.
Blasted them 2 nights in a row.
Killed them.
Killed them.
I'm going Astros.
Okay, listen, you're going to have to live with this. You're going to have to, tonight, you're going to have to look yourself in the mirror. When I look in the mirror tonight, I won't be seeing the person who picked against the scorching hot New York Mets. But when you look in the mirror tonight, that's what you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll look in the mirror tonight, you'll see somebody who picked against the scorching hot New York Mets. If you're comfortable with that, then be comfortable with it. But that's what you're going to be looking at when you look at the mirror tonight.
What are we watching on TV?
SmackDown. 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Fox. We have a bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. It's the new bloodline. They're going to be formally acknowledged tonight on SmackDown. What do you think about the new bloodline?
It's a little crazier than the old bloodline.
They're a little crazy. They seem a little less organized.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like the NWO Wolfpack in a way. Like it was cool for a second. Like everybody was like, oh, this is the new version. This is cool. But like, you can't top the original.
I don't think so. I saw the chat discussing it earlier. Their opinion is that Roman Reigns got to knock out this film. And then Roman Reigns and the Usos and maybe even Sami Zayn, they'll reunite the bloodline and come take on this fake bloodline.
Oh, so it really will be like the NWO, the red versus the black. Yeah, that's
Bennett, that's not my prediction. That comes straight from I'm lifting that straight from the chat.
I could see that. I could see bloodline versus bloodline, like different versions. I like it. I actually like this.
Buddy, I tell you what, the thing I'm most looking forward to in this world, is the first time our tribal chief walks to the ring again. The first time.
I can't wait.
There will be nothing that pops like that.
I will say.
Except for when that beat drops in Euphoria at the Kia Forum. That was pretty good, too.
Was that cool?
Yeah. But I think the tribal chief Roman Reigns walking back into a wrestling arena for the first time when that music hit, that's going to pop pretty good. I look forward to that day.
I will say Friday Night SmackDown, it's kind of a love-hate relationship that I have with it, because on the one hand, like, I'm watching, the premiere show and the good content and everything like that. On the flip side, the second I turn on wrestling in my house, my kids want to wrestle the entire
that's
show.
A real thing.
And
a
like,
real thing.
I'm good to go for like 5 to 10 minutes, but like they got all the energy in the world, and so like it doesn't stop, and then my back starts hurting because like they don't understand, like, hey, you can't just, like, when dad's sitting on the floor, jump off of the couch onto dad's back and shoulders. Like, that doesn't, I'm getting older, and so
mine are past that. Like, I ain't had a kid jump on me in a minute. I think mine are done jumping on me.
And it'll be when I'm not paying attention. So, like, I'll just be, like, sitting there and someone will just land, full force on my back. And that kind of sucks. Like, it hurts. I can feel the pain right now just thinking about it. So
doesn't sound like you're ready to be in a Money in the Bank qualifying match.
No, not
with that kind of back. Hey, we got Money in the Bank qualifying matches tonight, too. LA Knight, Logan Paul, Santos Escobar. That ain't bad.
Give me Logan Paul.
You want I hate LA Knight. So I take Logan Paul out of them, too.
Yeah.
Jade Cargill. Oh, Tiffany Stratton. People like Tiffany Stratton.
I think it'll be Jade. She'll win.
Yeah. People like Jade. That'll be a match to watch. That'll be a fun one.
It's a good one. That's a
watch.
good match. That's a good match. I like that one.
Candice LeRae's also in that one. So these are like.
She ain't got a prayer. Sorry.
Nah, so you're done. Money in the Bank qualifying match. Naomi, Blair Davenport, Indy Hartwell. And then we get the Bloodline acknowledgement ceremony. Wonder if Cody Rhodes is going to try to mess that up. I can't speak to it.
He'll get involved.
I can't speak to it. Anyway, if you love the new Bloodline, tonight's about them. 7 o'clock, we're going to do it on Fox 13.
What's the best thing we've read?
I wrote 5 of my favorite picks of the 2024 NBA draft for CBSSports.com. I knocked it out last night. I tweeted it last night. I'll retweet it here in a minute, but among my 5 favorite picks, Dalton Connect to the Lakers at 17. I mentioned that the Bucks at 23 took a 19-year-old who averaged less than 3 points per game in Australia last season, and that seemed counterproductive given you're trying to win now with an aging core of Giannis and Dame and Brooke and Chris Middleton. You draft a 19-year-old who can't help you next year. Well, the Lakers drafted a 23-year-old who can help you next year and should. I love that pick. Other ones on the list: Reed Shepherd to Houston, Donovan Clingan to Portland, Devin Carter to Sacramento. And yes, I like Bronny James to the Lakers. I think it was one of the more sensible picks made on Thursday for all the reasons I laid out earlier in the show. If you want to read that, you can find the piece. I'll retweet it, or you can go to CBSSports.com.
What's on tap for tomorrow?
Next week. What's on tap next week?
Next week, Bennett. Well, tomorrow, what's on top for tomorrow? I don't really know. I'm just looking forward to getting back home.
We will have the press conference today with Zach Edey and Jaylen Wells. Obviously, we're still waiting on the other transaction to go through, but
Sure.
We'll have the press conference today at 5 o'clock, Grizzlies.com, all our platforms. We'll have it.
So make sure to check that out. And then next week, if anything interesting is said at these press conferences, I'm sure we'll revisit that on Monday. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to the weekend, if I'm being honest. Just getting home and having a nice weekend. But then, can't wait to see you guys again on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. I'm going to enjoy mine. We'll meet back here Monday at 10. Till then, be careful, be kind, be good. Rep your hood.